Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 26th of September, now it's 9:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late in the afternoon on my Patreon page, in which I will share additional news that will be reported by Russian media, perhaps with some more detailed. And by the way, I do some extra content on Patreon on regular basis in attempt to generate additional interest among members of our community towards my Patreon page, and I will be glad if you will consider to join our Patreon community. You can see links under this video in the description box. And well, that's been said, let's talk about news. And well, first of all, short summary of the situation on the battlefield. During the previous night, Russian side conducted yet another missile and drone strikes on logistical and military infrastructure of Kiev regime. Drones and missiles were flying in direction of several regions that are still controlled by Kiev regime. I did share information about it on my Telegram. So main directions of Russian strikes were Cherkasy region, Sumy region, Zaporozhye, part of Zaporozhye that's still controlled by Ukrainian armed forces, also Nikolaev region and Odessa region. And when it comes to Odessa region, by the way, I also did share this video footage that is made in Romania from Romanian side on Romanian bank of Danube River, not far away from Reni, port city of Ukraine. And by the way, this is Reni here, which is on Danube River and border between Ukraine and Romania. In this part goes through river, in middle of the river. So one bank is Ukraine, another bank of the river is Romania, and this video was shot somewhere here. And you can clearly see in those videos Russian strikes on logistical infrastructure of Kiev regime in this area. I guess Russian side will renew its quite large-scale drone and missile strikes in direction of several ports that Ukraine has on Danube River. Reni, one of them, and of course Ismail and Kilia here. And this done, as I understand, in attempt to minimize capacities of Ukrainian side to use Danube as a route to receive some military equipment from NATO member states. And well, when it comes to overall situation on the line of contact, no significant changes, no breakthroughs on anyone's side. Kherson region, it's usual stuff, artillery duels between the sides, constant fight for the small islands, for control over the small islands on the Dnieper River. And by the way, increased activity of Russian Air Force, and I do share on my Telegram on daily basis at least several videos nowadays with strikes on concentration points of Ukrainian armed forces and military equipment in Kherson region. As I mentioned several in previous videos, I guess Ukrainian side was definitely planning or truly planning to conduct mass crossing of the Dnieper River, and Russian side is conducting some preventive strikes now to make sure that Ukrainian armed forces don't really have enough manpower and military equipment to conduct this crossing of the Dnieper River. But even if they will do it or try it, they will have a minimal force, so that Russian defense lines will easily repel all the attacks. And by the way, when it comes to mass crossing of the Dnieper River, as I said many times before, it may take place simultaneously with second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the Frontline, main axis of Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive, which is in its fourth month now, and yet did not achieve much on the battlefield. when it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line, main hotspots in Zaporozhye still are Orekhov bridgehead. No significant changes when it comes to Orekhov. Local scale skirmishes between the sides. Ukrainian forces still are concentrating additional forces in Orekhov bridgehead, I guess, to prepare this exact second wave of counteroffensive. And simultaneously they are trying to conduct some operations in direction of Verbovo. A few days ago we did had some reports that forward units of Ukrainian forces even managed to enter northern western part of Verbovo, but then Russian side counterattack, and these Ukrainian forces were neutralized basically. And also by the way, yesterday afternoon I did see some reports on Russian Telegram pages that Russian forces conducted local scale offensive in direction of Rabotina settlement, and I guess Ukrainian forces were did not expect such a move from Russian side, and they caught by surprise. And this Russian Recon group, scout group that was conducting this operation, did manage to not just neutralize several units of Ukrainian armed forces, but also to capture several Ukrainian militants. And one of the videos that I did see is just too graphic to share on YouTube or even on Telegram. But well, that video definitely confirms Russian activity in Rabotina direction. Just point is that one of the soldiers were in agony, one of the soldiers were wounded, and I guess Russian militaries were waiting before dog will come to take care of that wounded person. And overall, I will say situation is still operational pause or a deadlock. No significant changes on this sector of the front line, and similar can be said about South Donetsk sector of the front line. We constantly are receiving information that Ukrainian side is still trying to pull off some units from all around the front whenever they can and send them in direction of Zaporozhye sector and in direction of South Donetsk sector to conduct this second wave of counteroffensive. But as time goes by, this window of opportunity that Ukrainian side has to conduct such an operation is closing, shutting down, and well, at this point I would not be surprised if this second wave, anticipated by many, second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive, did not even take place. When it comes to South Donetsk direction, and if that's the case, by the way, then maybe we will see Russian offensive operations in these sectors of the front line. Local scale, of course, and mainly to encircle this Ukrainian grouping of forces in Orekhov bridgehead. When it comes to Donetsk direction, also no significant changes, not on the southern flank of Donetsk sector, in areas of Marinka, Krasnogorovka or Avdeevka, and not in the northern flanks of Donetsk direction around Bakhmut. We have additional confirmations of information that Russian forces did establish full control over the Dubovo-Vasilievka, by the way, and even this pro-Ukrainian map is forced, which is surprising, by the way. Even this pro-Ukrainian map is forced to acknowledge that Dubovo-Vasilievka is under full Russian control now. As I said a few times before, many experts were expecting Ukrainian activities on the northern flank of Bakhmut, but in reality, Russian side conducted these surprising offensive operations and retake control over this settlement, which was previously disputed between the sides. And if Russian local scale offensive operations continue on the northern flank of Bakhmut, maybe we will see activization of Russian forces on the southern flank also. And if that's the case, then we will have a quite good enough indicator on our hands that Russian forces are preparing offensive operations in direction of Konstantinovka and Chisov Yar. But this would not happen before winter for sure, because as I said, rainy season and Rasputitsa is a serious problem, not just for Ukrainian forces but also for Russian forces. Nature definitely does plays its role. So Russia may prepare ground for large-scale offensive operations in these areas for winter time. And when it comes to northern sectors of the front line, no significant changes. Artillery duels, drone wars, and recon operations, local-scale recon operations. In northern sectors, by the way, only question remains is when Russian side will begin its large-scale operations, large-scale offensive operations, because Ukrainian forces are depleted, severely depleted on the central and northern sectors of the front line, and I just don't see even slight chance on part of Ukrainian side to regain initiative in any of the areas on the northern sectors. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the battlefield. If you are interested in more detailed information when it comes to these local scale skirmishes, recon operations, and artillery duels and so on, as I always do, I recommend channels like Military Summary, Defense Politics Asia, channel of Alexander Christofor, host of Duran Show. They provide us with great detail of information when it comes to this local level battles and changes on the front line. My program has different format. This program is about news in general, so this is it when it comes to short summary. Now let me share with you some other news, well, RIA Novosti is reporting that in Kursk region, Ukrainian drone dropped some explosives on grid in one of the electro grid stations, and as a result 7 settlements are left without electricity. Engineering groups are working now to deal with the damage that was done. No reports about casualties on the ground. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian air defense systems shut down Ukrainian missile in an area of Belbek airfield in Sevastopol. So it seems like despite Russian attempts to take out Ukrainian airfields and air force, they still have some possibilities to launch long-range missiles. But I guess this will continue not for long, because lately Russian side did. I guess Russian forces receive a green light from general staff to take out everything that flies on part of Ukrainian forces, and that's why on daily basis Russian forces are now beginning to strike airfields and logistical points of Ukrainian forces. And for example, this morning I did share this video, by the way, on my Telegram. You can clearly see this destruction of MiG-29 fighter jet of Ukrainian forces in Kulbakino airfield in Nikolaev region. This strike was conducted yesterday afternoon. And by the way, there were several more strikes. I just did not find video about that additional strikes. I guess this airfield did receive significant damage, and if there was any other airplanes on the field, probably all of them went out of service. Let's continue. And the TASS news agency is reporting that head of NGO We Are Together with Russia, Vladimir Rogov, and he is, by the way, official also, if I'm not mistaken, in Zaporozhye region, confirmed officially that Orekhovo-Vasilievka is under full Russian control. I did report about this settlement for several days now, but well, at this point, this is official. We can probably say, even if Ukrainian map is acknowledging that this settlement is under full Russian control, then definitely we have no reason to discard claims from Russian side that they did establish full control over the Orekho-Vasilievka, and Rogov basically are confirming exactly that. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that first bunch of Ukrainian Abrams tanks already are in Ukraine, arrived in Ukraine some time ago, and well, I was saying about it, isn't it? Since these rumors began during the previous days, that it's only a matter of days when these tanks will arrive, and Washington will make such a statement or announcement in upcoming days. It was clear to me that these tanks probably already are in Ukraine, because that's what usually happens. When Washington announces deliveries of any new type of weapons, those weapons usually already are in Ukraine, so no surprises to learn that Abrams tanks, first bunch of Abrams tanks, are in Ukraine. As we all know, US did promise 31 M1 Abrams tanks to Zelensky and his associates, and I guess before end of this year all 31 Abrams tanks will arrive in Ukraine. They don't gonna change much, really. Yesterday, by the way, for example, I did watch video footage of destruction of this Swedish STRV 122 main battle tanks that are basically modernized version of German Leopard 2s. And in that video, you can clearly see when these two tanks, two STRV 122s, are moving on fire position to open fire in direction of Russian positions, and then Russian artillery is opening fire, and as a result of heat right next to one of the tanks, one tank was damaged and it could not move no more, and second tank stuck. Second tank, by the way, stuck in the field. It was not damaged, not hit by anything at the time. It just stuck in the field because it's just too heavy for such a terrain. These 65 ton tanks are too heavy, by the way. These tanks are not meant to be used in such conditions. I don't know what engineers were thinking when they were building these tanks, but I mean, you can clearly see on that video the tank without being damaged, just stuck. And then Ukrainian forces bring some engineering machine or another tank to somehow remove this stuck STRV 122, but then the Russian artillery did open fire. Crew of that engineering machine or third tank ran away. Same did tankers from that tank, and eventually, finally, Russian soldiers use Lancer drones and some other drones to basically destroy both tanks, both STRVs. So if Leopard 2s and STRV 122s find it difficult to move around in such conditions in the fields, in the steppe area, then Abrams is even heavier, by the way. Abrams is even more heavier than those tanks are. So I guess best Ukrainian side can do with these tanks is to use them as mobile artillery, and that's it. Because if they cannot move on the fields, how are they gonna cross these small bridges that are hundreds of in that steppe area over these small rivers? Those bridges will definitely would not withstand such heavy load. But anyway, let's continue. Of course, these Abrams tanks eventually will be destroyed, and some of them will arrive in as trophies in military museums of Russian Federation. And by the way, RT is reporting that, and when it comes to weapons deliveries, by the way, there were some reports that this week Washington will announce about deliveries of ATACMS long-range missiles that can be launched from HIMARS MLRS systems. And well, if that's the case, then I guess ATACMS missiles are also already in Ukraine. And if Washington made decision to deliver HIMARS systems, then, as I said yesterday, and quite a few times before, I guess it's only a matter of time now when Berlin will make statement about deliveries of Taurus long-range cruise missiles to Zelensky and his associates. And because it's almost inevitable that Berlin will obey orders from Washington and will deliver these Taurus missiles, I guess this is one of the reasons why recently, in recent days, Russian forces become very active when it comes to destruction of Ukrainian airfields and Ukrainian air forces, remnants of Ukrainian air force, because Taurus missiles have a significantly longer range than Storm Shadows or Scalp missiles that was delivered by UK and France to Zelensky and his associates, and pose a significantly bigger threat for Russia. Let's continue. Because of this range, by the way, Taurus can fly up to 500 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, which is a lot. Let's continue. RT is reporting that US is running low on cash for Ukraine. That was said by official representative of White House, this Admiral John Kirby. And well, let me read several sentences from this article. So, Pentagon will only be able to support Ukraine's war effort for a few weeks should Congress fail to pass a new funding bill. White House National Secretary Council spokesman John Kirby has claimed. Speaking to CNN for an interview published on Monday, Kirby was asked what impact a government shutdown could have on US aid to Kyiv, as lawmakers continue heated negotiations or the stopgap budget bill, which could contain up to 25 billion in assistance to Ukraine. Well, we all know this is every year. This story is repeat itself year after year in US when sides are beginning to have this heated discussion about US national debt, and almost every year we have this story that US government may shut down and so on, but eventually all decisions are made by sides. They are just basically trading, and all decisions are made, and US government is not shutting down, and US is not declaring default, and it's just a political game, internal political game of US political system. And well, when it comes to support of financial support of Ukraine, I'm quite sure White House, CIA will find ways to send additional billions and billions of US taxpayers' money to Zelensky and his associates, even if this political row inside the US will continue for a week or two or months. But this is interesting that in this new aid package for Ukraine, 25 billion, definitely 24. I didn't know about 24, but seems like it's 25 now. 25 billion definitely are mentioned, which is quite a lot. But yet again, until US citizens allow this madness to continue, these tens and hundreds of billions to be sent to this most corrupt regime in Europe, in Kyiv, then well, I don't think anything will change in attitude of White House towards this matter. But anyway, let's continue. And what is most important, by the way, we all, I guess, know perfectly well that without Western financial support, Kyiv regime will collapse in several months. Kyiv regime will just collapse in 2-3 months time. That's it. Let's continue. TASS is reporting, TASS news agency is reporting that US impose additional sanctions on dozens of companies, and this time, by the way, not just on Russian companies, but also on companies from Germany, China, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Pakistan, and Finland. And according to Finance Ministry of US, these companies are participating in avoiding US sanctions on imports of some goods to Russia. Desperate measure on part of Washington, I believe, because they can impose sanctions on these companies. Okay, in 2 days' time, other companies will be open and will continue to operate in terms of parallel import to Russia, because it's business, by the way. People are doing business. That's all. And you're not gonna stop them. You can sanction one company, they will create another ones in 2 days' time, and they will continue business as usual. So Washington definitely becoming, and Western elites in general, definitely becoming desperate, by the way, with this sanctions war, because I guess they don't really know anymore what other sanctions they can impose on Russia or against Russia. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that US, by the way, condemned the decision of Mexico to invite Russian militaries on the parade during the celebration of independence, if I'm not mistaken. And by the way, this I did not know about it. I just learned from this report here that on 16th of September in Mexico there was a military parade, and Russian soldiers from Russian 154th regiment of Preobrazhensky, under the name of Preobrazhensky, did participate in. That was, by the way, let me translate this entire sentence because it's too much specifics here. So participants in the parade, which took place on September 16 in Mexico City, were soldiers of 154th Preobrazhensky Regiment, which was founded by Peter Peter the Great, in 17th century. So yes, I was kind of surprised when I read this information. I did not. Russian media did not report about it, by the way. I read these main Russian media outlets on a daily basis, and well, maybe I did miss that information. I don't know. But I was surprised that Russians were invited, and I guess Washington was also surprised to see Russian militaries in Mexico, and they did send note of protest to government of Mexico because of this invitation of Russian military personnel. Well, US just have to live with it, by the way, that the world is not running around US. That's it. And influence of Washington, influence of Brussels and major capitals in the so-called Western world are decreasing significantly. And this war that Western so-called elites are waging against Russia definitely are not helping to increase influence and to improve reputation of the Western world. That's for sure. But information is interesting, isn't it? I guess majority of our community did not know also that Russian forces did participate in this military parade in Mexico on 16th of September, just like a week ago. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, article did come out on New York Times about Finland and the role of Finland in NATO and integration of Finland in NATO. And this article is quite interesting because Russian media also did pay attention to it. And it did says, this article, that, well, Finnish elites did anticipate some easy life once they will join NATO, but they were very much mistaken, because joining NATO in very fast-paced was just a beginning, and real work begins now, and real expenses will begin now. And Helsinki only nowadays are realizing that be a part of a huge military alliance is very costly. And well, let's see how Finnish government will try to justify spending additional billions and billions on military while Finnish economy is not in best shape, and Finnish society, which used to be happiest in the world, is beginning little by little, step by step, but asking questions. And I'm quite sure significant number of citizens of Finland still are critical of this decision of Finnish government to join NATO, because Finland did enjoy this neutrality for decades, and Finland had great relationships not just with Soviet Union and then with Russia, but also with the Western states, and benefit from it. And now Finland is part of this NATO alliance, and Finland itself position Finnish government did position Finland as an enemy of Russia. Why they did it, I don't know. And I remind you, by the way, that during the empire, Russian Empire, Finland was a part of Russian Empire, and basically Finland as a state exists only because Russia liberate Finland from Swedish control. Finland never had any statehood whatsoever. It was occupied by Sweden, and Russia took that territory from Sweden, and Finland was a very privileged part of Russian Empire, and eventually gained independence from Russia without war and so on. And many people in Sweden do know history, and they knew that Finland in Russian Empire was feeling quite good, by the way. And of course, many people do remember that this neutrality during the Cold War era and after Soviet Union collapsed, this neutrality did benefit Finland very much. But anyway, we all know how true rulers of the Western world operate. They put some puppets in governments everywhere they can, and Finland is no exception. And then these puppet governments are doing whatever they are told to do. So Helsinki received order, I guess from Washington, maybe from London, that they have to join NATO. Even if it goes against the national interests of Finland and the interests of Finnish society. And well, Helsinki did what it was told to do. But let's continue, by the way. This scandal in Canada, in Canadian Parliament, is still relevant worldwide in media. Almost everyone is talking about this shameless incident that took place in Parliament of Canada, when they applauded and celebrated the Nazi mass murderer, by the way, Nazi mass murderer, who during the World War II was in SS Galicia division, and that division, by the way, was involved in mass murders of Jewish people, Polish people, Slovak people. They were mass murderers, by the way. They are psychopaths. And the Canadian Parliament did give a standing ovation and applaud to this Nazi murderer, man. And the world is kind of shocked and in disbelief in how that even can happen. But it can, because that's the level of degradation of the so-called Western elites. That's the level of stupidity and the degradation of the so-called Western elites. And that's how this kind of madness may take place. It happened in Canada, but it may happen in any other, this so-called, in any other state of the so-called Western world, man. That's a face of modern West. That's it, really. Face of so-called elites of the modern West. And in this report, by the way, let me mention that members of our community from Canada did express their disgrace towards Canadian government and parliament for what they did. Because of course, Canadians themselves, by the way, are shocked to see this kind of stuff, man. It's just unbelievable. And we have Rianor's report here that official spokesman or representative of General Secretary of UN did make statement that it is inappropriate and unacceptable to celebrate and honor Nazi mass murderers ever. So even UN had to speak about this topic. That's how wild, like wildfire, this information go around the world like wildfire, by the way. And well, Russia and Poland, by the way, are demanding explanations and apologies from government of Canada for this incident. And if you see that video with Trudeau, what he did, Prime Minister of Canada, he blamed Russian propaganda, by the way, for critical questions that they are receiving now because of that accident. Just imagine how stupid that animal is, really, that Trudeau. And he did blame Russian propaganda for what he did. What he did and what his government did. And what Canadian Parliament did. I mean, how stupid these idiots are, really. I don't know, man. He blamed Russian propaganda, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. At one point, I guess everything will become Russia's fault. I mean, if it's snow, then it's Russia's fault. If it's raining, then it's of course Russia, or it's Russia's fault, man. If it's too sunny day, too hot, it's also Russia's fault, of course. How else? That's level that Western elites eventually, Western so-called elites eventually gonna end up. They're gonna blame Russia for absolutely everything. And in this case, this stupid animal, Trudeau, is blaming Russian propaganda for this worldwide criticism of actions that took place in Canadian Parliament. Unbelievable, man. But let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Hungary, by the way, refused to send to Ukraine not just POWs that were went to Hungary from Russia, not just POWs that Russia freed and let them go to Hungary, but also to military-age men that are living in Hungary and maybe have a refugee status. So I guess Kiev demanding from capital to capital in Europe this military-age men to be sent back to Ukraine, and we did see that several states now did made official statements that in no circumstances they will deport. They will deport refugees to Ukraine, even though some states did make case that if these people are involved in, if there is criminal case against those people, then they may consider it. And this way, basically, Czech Republic, for example, made such statement, and this way Prague did leave a window of opportunity for Kiev to come up with some false criminal allegations against those people and then demand those people to be sent back to Ukraine under these false allegations, and then eventually these people will end up on the front line. That's what will happen. But Hungary is very principled. They don't care about any statements from Ukraine whatsoever. In this regard, government of Hungary does absolutely great job. They are protecting their own interests, their own citizens. And recently, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Prime Minister of Hungary Orban did make statement that until ethnic Hungarians, rights of ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine will be restored, Hungary will not support Ukraine whatsoever in any international organization. So Hungary is very principled, by the way, when it comes to defense of Hungarians and interests of Hungary. And by the way, we have RT's report, which is about statements that this legendary, I will say, foreign minister of India, Subramanyam Jaishankar, made in regards to dominant forces in this world during a visit to New York for the UN General Assembly. And basically, foreign minister of India did said that major powers are using their dominant position to enforce certain agendas on other states worldwide, especially to global south, and this is totally unacceptable for India and global south. And well, India basically demanding to be received as equal, and India is demanding to be respected as it deserves. And well, by the way, I did say many times, this person, by the way, Sabram Manyam Jaishankar is a legend. I mean, he's one of the most popular worldwide, I guess, foreign ministers that there is or ever was, because he is very sharp. By the way, he is very sharp. I did see so many videos when he is just basically shutting down these representatives of Western so-called media or propaganda outlets, and when he is even shutting down these so-called politicians or elites of the West. Very sharp person, probably best foreign minister India ever had. I don't know. Let's continue, by the way. And who can disagree with him? Who can disagree with him? We all know that US, UK, France, they try to remain as a dominant power in this world without acknowledging national interests of other countries. And lately, by the way, they become extremely aggressive towards global south. And yesterday, for example, I did report about statements of Borrell, formal head of EU diplomacy, who was very critical of global south because of unwillingness of states in the Pacific region to destroy their relationships with Russia, just because Western so-called elites demanding so. So just imagine how out of touch with reality these so-called Western elites are, man. You know, they are no longer dominant force in this world. They still have some power, but they are no longer ultimate dominant force in this world, and everyone knows that. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian Foreign Ministry made a statement that it's totally inappropriate and unacceptable when Prime Minister of Pashinyan is making some strong statements towards Russia. Well, unfortunately, relationships between Moscow and Yerevan is deteriorating as days go by on daily basis. Really, Pashinyan and his governments, they are. It seems like their main task at this point is to destroy what is left from strategic relationships between Russia and Armenia. They are too focused on destroying that relationship, maybe because they have such orders from Washington. Not just maybe, but for sure, that's the case. And well, by the way, Peskov, press spokesman of Russian president, also made a statement about Armenia, and he said that it's totally unacceptable for Russia when Armenian officials are making critical statements towards Russian peacekeepers, who are only forced, by the way, on the ground in Karabakh, that are protecting Armenians in this Armenian enclave. And still, by the way, this U.S. puppets, let's say what they really are, these U.S. puppets, Pashinyan and his so-called government, are there to criticize Russia and Russian peacekeepers. It's unbelievable, but that's the people that citizens of Armenia choose to lead that country. I don't know where, because in my understanding, Armenia is heading towards total disaster, man. It's not gonna end well, unfortunately, for Armenia. This Pashinyan is definitely not working for interests of and security of Armenian citizens. That's for sure. And by the way, this morning information was reported by Russian media that Nagorno-Karabakh already left more than 15,000 residents, and I'm afraid eventually 120,000 Armenians may left Nagorno-Karabakh, as it was reported by many or predicted by many different media outlets, including Western ones, by the way, like Reuters and so on, because of mistrust. I do understand that Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh may find it extremely difficult to trust their security and security of their children to government in Baku, even if leadership of Azerbaijan will promise security and will guarantee security. Let's continue, and but let's see. By the way, Russia is still involved in this process of negotiations between Karabakh and Azerbaijan, and I'm quite sure Moscow will do everything possible to make sure that Armenians, if that will make decision to stay in Karabakh, will have a proper security. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that, U.S. officials gonna visit Armenia fairly soon, and among them will be head of USAID, Samantha Power, and aide of head of State Department in terms of Europe and Eurasia, Yuri Kim. Well, these people are going to Armenia to see how their puppets doing, basically. That's it. Washington probably sending these people to make sure that Pashinyan and the rest of the Armenian government are acting as they are told to. They may conduct some training of Pashinyan, how he should lick boots of US officials in proper manner. Anything is possible, by the way, because who the hell is Pashinyan? He's just nobody. Traitor and nobody. Just a dog of Washington, CIA. No one, I cannot understand how anyone can respect such a dirty, disgusting creature as a Pashinyan, man. Just animal. But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting, by the way, that Hungary warns EU against ditching Russian energy. Well, once again, Hungary is taking strong stands when it comes to relationships with Brussels and Russia. And Hungary, of course, wants and are interested to keep good relationships with Russia, not just because of energy, but because of many other reasons. And good luck to Budapest. Good luck to Budapest, because it's gonna be increasingly difficult to stand on their principles and fight for their independence, as Western so-called elites and their puppets in Brussels will become more and more desperate. But they are fighting, though. They are fighting. And Russia Today is also reporting that most Russian oil exports bypassing price cap. This was reported by Financial Times, by the way, which is true. G7, as we know, did impose this price cap of $60 per barrel on Russian oil, but in reality, Russian oil is trading for Urals, by the way, for example, trading for from 70 to 80, sometimes even higher than that for a barrel, $70 to $80 per barrel. And it all depends, of course, on world prices on oil. But anyway, Russian oil is trading significantly higher than $60. And we did had many reports previously that Japan, by the way, is buying Russian oil and for $70 or something like that. So even Japan, part of this G7 and their price cap agreement, even Japan is bypassing this sanction. And this is going to be last news for today's update. RT is also reporting that Russian maritime trade forecast is to grow. So Russian shipping will continue to expand and will reach 29.6 million tons by 2026, marking a 7.3% increase from 2022, according to a report by Ministry of Economic Development. If shipping is increasing, if volumes are increasing, that definitely means that economy is doing more or less okay, which is one more indicator, I guess, that this sanctions war that was imposed on Russia by Western so-called elites aren't really working that well for the Western elites. And this is it for now. No matter how much I try to make short updates, it's 52 minutes anyway. And by the way, sorry that I get a little emotional when I was talking about this Pashinyan and his government. It's just I have no respect to such people, man. And I cannot play. I don't play, man. I say what I think, and Pashinyan is disgraceful animal in my understanding. That's what he is. And his government. They all are crap. Because of them, more than 100,000 Armenians gonna end up being refugees, by the way. So who can ever respect such a disgraceful individual like Pashinyan is? I don't know. But anyway, sorry for emotions. This is it for now. And hopefully you will find this update interesting. Plenty of news. And please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like or find interesting. You can leave comment basically about anything, really, because more likes and comments, my videos will have more chances are that I will have opportunity to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, please, if you can, share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.